up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. Great to see everyone back. How you doing on this Thursday, or whatever day you're watching this on? I'm not even sure what day I'm filming this on, but I know it's gonna drop on a Thursday, my friends. So welcome back. And this time, as you know, we do different episodes on Thursday, and this one, as you've probably seen from the thumbnail, I'm imagining, since I put so much hard work into making it, that we are doing a two-gun review of a game called Die in the Dungeon, a reverse-style game. Yeah, where you're playing the monsters, trying to stop those murder hobos from stealing all your cool treasure. Now, in a nutshell, that's it. So why don't you get down to the table with me, and we'll go over the game. I'll talk about it, give you my full review, full product review, from box to rules, to everything else in between. So come on, I'll see you down the table. As always, we're going to start with the very first thing that you see, and that's the box of the game. And let me say, this box, although it's a little dark with some of its color schemes, it definitely stands out. I love the art in this, and it's not even really my particular style that I usually enjoy, but this is so thematically perfect that it matches up so well between the art and the game. The front of the box shows different characters that you're going to be encountering or even playing in the game, including the Troll of Bones and the Die Roller. And it also shows some of the heroes on it that you're going to be facing. And I honestly believe that even though the word die is in it, which usually has strong negative connotations to it, in this case, seeing all the dice throughout the entirety of the box, I think eases the mind of anyone looking at it, so they immediately understand that in this case, in this specific incident, that die refers to dice. And this game is all about the dice, and the box brings that to life. Now, the back of the box shows you all the contents of the box, everything that's in it, and it gives you a write-up about what the game is about. And I think altogether, I think the box of this game delivers. It definitely delivers to you a sense of wanting to know more about this game. It kind of pulls you in, I think. And I really, really enjoy the entirety of the box, the art on it. It's absolutely great, and I think that FunDaMental Games definitely hit it out of the ballpark with this part of the game. But why don't we look at a few other things with the game? It's a lot more than just the box, isn't it? Now, as the art in the box kind of shows off, this is a die-heavy game. You're going to be rolling and using dice constantly through this game. So the dice, let's take a look at them. Now, there's nothing special. Okay, I admit that right up front. There's nothing special about any of these dice, really. 3 sets of them are your basic RPG style gaming dice, with the 4-sided, the 6-sided, the 8-sided, the 10, the 12, and the 20-sided, all making to what RPGers find completely familiar to begin with. There's nothing unusual about the dice. They're standard dice. I can't tell you anything good or bad about them. They're dice. And besides the RPG style dice of the D4 through to the D20, we're also going to find some smaller D6s in here, which are actually used to track experience and to get bonuses from having enough experience under your belt. This game doesn't go for a typical board, although the inside of the box does act as a board for the very first introductory game. But other than that, you're not using a traditional board. This is a tile-based game, and I love so many things about these tiles. I love the art on the tiles. I think it is perfectly fit for this game. I think the art on each of these tiles helps draw you into the world setting a little bit more. I like the fact that they're kind of small, actually. And that's because you don't need anything more than just the information on this. You're not going through tactical combat on each of these tiles. Well, you're doing combat, but it's not anything like tactical miniature combat at all. You just need a space to represent what is going on, and the small size of these tiles works perfectly for that. And it also helps to create a smaller footprint on your gaming table. Yes, this game does not have miniatures. Well, you can get some 3D printing files to print up some of the playable monsters that you're going to be using during the course of this game and campaign, but really, it doesn't come with anything other than standees. But these standees are absolutely gorgeous. FunDaMental Games went the extra step. Instead of just getting a picture drawn on a piece of cardboard, they went with clear acrylic. So they have these clear acrylic, I can say this is a tongue twister, these clear acrylic pieces in the shape of the monsters that you're going to be playing, and then this bright, colorful, beautiful artwork depicting these monsters. And it stands out so much because of this acrylic standee. This has become my favorite standee of any type. I want this to be the standard across the board for all games now because they look that absolutely beautiful. And to see them on the table, on the tiles, it fits. It really does. Now, there are going to be 2 books that come with this. One of them is the rule book. I find the rule book was put together very well. All the information flows organically, not only in how the game is played, but just from segment to segment. Reading it all has a very easy flow to follow, and I had absolutely no problem getting through this rulebook and understanding the game in order to get it down to the table and play it properly as soon as possible. There's not a lot. It's not rules heavy. I'll be getting to the rules in a moment. I want to get to the components first. Now, the other book you're going to be getting is the quest book, and this has several quests in it that can be, but not necessarily are, but can be strung together for a campaign-style game depicting when your monster first gets captured by the die flayer to patrol its dungeon and kill off the murder hobos that are invading into its space, right up until, yes, and I'll give away, there's a little bit of a spoiler, cover your ears if you don't want to hear this part, 3, 2, 1, leading all the way up to your own epic battle with the die flayer for your freedom. Okay, you can listen again now if you're covering your ears. Now, besides this, it's also set up that you can create your own dungeons very, very easily, almost too easily. This game doesn't have to follow the quest book at all. The quest book, I think, makes for a great first run-through of this game system. And after that, it is just so easy to put things together yourself and create your own dungeons to defend everything for. So both of these books, not only highly important to the game, but are put together really well. One thing I do want to say about the quest book is I'm not 100% sure that it was that the adventures in it were put in quest order. It doesn't seem like they were, but really, one quick look at each of these quests, and I was able to figure out 1, 2, 3, 4, the order, if you were going to be playing these as a progression. So I don't think it's that hard to figure out whatsoever. But no, they're not really put in the quest book in any sort of campaign order. Now, before I jump ahead, one thing I just want to kind of rewind a little bit for. There was something I just noticed that I didn't mention when I was talking about the components of the game, and that's the player boards. The player boards are absolutely amazing. I'm in love with these player boards that they've created for the game. They're dual boards, so you have space carved out in them, literally, to put and hold your dice so that they're not screaming around all over the place. The way each of them are set up for individuality of each of these monsters showing their own personal abilities that they're able to do is also another nice touch. And the back of the boards has information for the heroes, the quote heroes, that are going to be running through the labyrinth that you have to defeat. It has all the information you're going to need on each of the 4 types of heroes and the 4 types of epic heroes right on the back of every one of the player boards. The player boards are amazing. Absolutely love these things. Now, moving forward here, I do now want to talk about the rules, because this is not a very rules-heavy game. The rule book itself isn't even all that challenging to get through. It has like 22 pages, I think it is, and a lot of it is art, and the print is a little big, not overly, barely noticeable, I think, but it is just a little bit bigger than normal. So the game rules are really kind of sleek, right? Everything that you're doing in the game. Now, the way the rules and the character board all work together is that you don't have a choice of where you put or how you use the 20-sided die or the 4-sided die. 20-sided die is always going to be set to 20 on your time, and all the way at the other end of the board where your D4 goes, that's your ability score, and you're going to start with one on that. Now, the other 4 abilities that you have, you can choose which die you want to put on each of these. And I love that customizable aspect of the game. How you're making each of your choices when you play the game. And I mean choices, I mean monsters that you pick. You can still make them even more different. So if you played Troll of Bones last time, you can play him again and change the entire setup of his dice to get a different play out of it, a different feel of the game. So with the might and the agility, the magic and the health, you're going to decide which die you want to put on it, and you're going to place that die at the maximum score. Yeah, that's how you individualize your characters during the course of this game. Now, the very first thing that you do is going to affect that. Because the very first thing you do every turn is that you're going to gain an ability point. So you're going to switch that 4-sided die from showing a 1 to showing a 2. And at the beginning of each turn, you're going to do that. Now, these are you're going to be gaining and losing these points like crazy throughout the entire game, because they are used so regularly. Now, after that, then you're going to get an option. And that option is that you can sacrifice some of your time units, 3 of them, to be specific, or at least up to 3 of them, and you can gain that same amount of health. So if you decide to spend 2 of your time, you're going to gain 2 health back. This is a good system. I like it. Sometimes you really feel like you're racing against the clock, and other times you're not. So sometimes it's easy to make this decision, and sometimes it's not. There's a lot of strategy in this game. Now, after you decide whether you want to optionally rest or not, then you decide whether you want to use one of your ability points. You can, as long as you have the points for it, the points on the character boards, I believe, are all 2-point and 4-point abilities, but then each monster has their own set of 4 one-shot abilities that you can spend the power points to do them once, and that's it. While the 2 abilities on your card, you can use any time as long as you have that amount of power. Now, after you've done that, the next thing is you're just going to lose the time, because everything is going to cost time in this game. After you lose time, then you get to make a choice of which unexplored, unflipped over, tile that is adjacent to any previously explored tile. So keep that in mind. You're not actually physically walking the standee around. Well, you can if you want, but you don't have to. So, walking the standee from this point to that point. Any point that has been flipped, whether you're on that point or it's on the other side of the tile board, If it's been flipped, then you can opt to explore an unflipped tile adjacent to any of your flipped tiles. So it doesn't really have movement that you have to keep track of in the game. You don't get movement points. You're just exploring one tile at a time, as long as that tile is adjacent to an unexplored tile. Now, if one of these tiles that you've just come across and you are flipping over has a token on it, then you get to keep that token. You take that token onto your player board. And if it is a die minion, you get to keep that little die minion dude. And if it's an ability score, then you're going to put that ability up 1 point. And if it flips, like if let's say you have your D12 on your health, and you have your full health, you're at 12, and then you get a token that adds on to your health, then you're going to get rid of that 12-sided die, and the next highest up, which is a 20, you're going to take a 20 and you're going to place it on the 13 mark. The 13 mark of that. If you lose a bit of health after that, then you go back down to the next appropriate die, which in this case would be the 12. So if it has a token on it, you get that token right away as soon as you flip the tile. Then you're going to deal with the tile. You're going to read the tile and see what it says. Maybe it's going to read as a trap, or maybe it's going to read as an encounter with the murder hobo heroes on it. And whatever it is, you have to resolve that tile. So why don't we check out how you actually do that by taking a look at the combat sequence. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to look and see what the party is made of and check the back of a non-used character board. And when you do that, you're going to be able to determine a few things, such as, are there multiples? Because if you have multiple fighters or rogues or wizards or clerics, then they're going to get different abilities during the course of that combat than if there was just one fighter, one rogue, and one wizard. If there was two of each, then there would be extra stuff that you got to deal with, as is listed on the back of the character cards. For example, if there are more fighters, for each fighter in the party beyond the first, the hero's might and agility attack rolls gain +1 bonus after rolling. And that's going to take effect. That's going to be in effect as long as there are more than one fighter still standing in the group. At this point, then, you can choose to use one ability. So as long as you have the ability points to set off whatever ability it is, whether it's one of your 2 natural abilities or one of your 4 one-shot abilities, now is the time in the combat sequence that you're going to get a chance to use them. Then the heroes get to go. They're always going to be making their attack first, and they're always going to attack in the same order. It's going to start with fighters attacking you, then the rogues, then the wizards. Clerics, generally speaking, do not attack unless a card says something otherwise. I think there's one example of that, but unless it says otherwise, clerics do not attack. They are there for defense. Now, when they make an attack, they use their full, or should I say the party's full ability. So if you are going up against a fighter, rogue, and a wizard, and the fighter gets to make an attack, then you're going to add his might to the might score of the rogue and the wizard. Now, that point is going to determine what die is going to be used. So let's say the fighter has a 3, the rogue has a 2, and the wizard has a 1. That's a total of a 6. So the fighter's going to get a chance to roll the 6-sided die against you, trying to beat the score on your might. Now, if he does beat the score, you're going to lose a point of might. But you also have an opportunity to take it directly from your health. Whatever attack is attacking you, whether it is a strength attack, whether it's an agility attack, or a magic attack, that is where you're taking the damage on your character board, unless you want to take it as health instead. And when you take that damage, you're just going to lower the point showing by 1 on the die in that ability. Now, if this brings it down to the next lowest size die, like let's say you had a 6 in magic and lost 2 points, bringing it down to 4, then you take that 6-sided die off of your character board and you put a 4 in its place. Now, I know I mentioned that before, and before I go on with anything else, I also want to state that you're only allowed to have 2 dice of any one set on your board at a time. So you can only have 2 of the 4s, 6s, 8s, 10s, 12s, 20s. If you're going to be grabbing a third one, you just simply don't get it. It won't go up that other die. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to the cleric, like I said, the cleric is not going to attack you, but you cannot attack anyone else in the party as long as the cleric is standing. You literally have to take the clerics out first. And while you're doing this, the other heroes are still going to be nickel and diming you to death. Picking at you here, picking at you there. So get rid of those clerics as fast as you can. After the heroes go, you get to retaliate. You get to make your attack. And you're going to do that by either using an ability or using one of your ability scores as opposed to ability powers. So let's say you decide you want to make a might because you're using Troll of Bones, and you decide to put a D12 on his might because he's crushing your opponents, in your mind the way you figure it out. Then you're going to roll that D12 to make a melee attack against who do you want to attack. As long as there's no cleric there, you get your choice. And if you hit them, that's it. There's no hit point tracker or anything. If you make a successful hit against your target, that target is down and out of the game. Now, earlier when I was going over components, I mentioned the small, tiny XP dice, the dynamic dice that they're called, the little D6s. Every time you take out a hero, then you get 1 pip, 1 point. So if this was your first battle and you ended up taking it down 2 fighters and a rogue, then you're going to set one of those little dynamic tiny D6s to 3 pips showing, and you're going to put that next to the first dynamic marker on your board, which is showing a 1. So when you get up to 6, pips experience XP, then that first dynamic die is going to flip to 1 and go in that spot. And that is worth 1 point that you can use anytime. It's a one-shot use, a one-shot point, but you do have that. And this continues. After you fill that up, then you're trying to get 2-point bonus. So you're every kill, you're getting another 1 pip on that tiny dynamic die. And when you get up to 6, it goes up to 2. And as long as you have things filled out below, if you have a 1, 2, and 3, then the next one will max out at 4, 5, and then 6. But killing the murder hobos is how you're going to get XP and those dynamic dice. And like I said, you can use these dynamic dice. So if in the middle of combat you're 1 point short from hitting that cleric and taking out that last defense that they have, then you can use the dynamic die for that 1 extra point. Ah, it's beautiful. And after that, the combat sequence just starts over again. After all the heroes have gone through and done everything, and you've done everything, if any heroes are still standing, it starts over again. And that's how the combat works. If you're playing a campaign mode style, then you're going to get to keep your dynamic dice, as well as any of the minions that you've encountered on the tiles and you've gotten to keep. And in some campaigns, it'll tell you that it will actually tell you get to keep the minions for the next adventure. So as long as you're doing that campaign mode, you do get to see a little bit of character growth and development. I like that. FunDaMental Games has a good track record as far as I'm concerned. They have come out with a good amount of fun games that I enjoy getting to the table. And I've never left the gaming experience with a bad taste in my mouth from anything that they've put out. And I think that Die in the Dungeon continues to show off and showcase some of the great talent that they have at this company. I really enjoy this reverse dungeon style game. And although it's been available, reverse dungeon style gaming, been available at least since the 80s with some RPG modules and dungeon magazine adventures, I remember, it's not anything that's very big. It's not anything that has been overly tapped in the board gaming market. So when I do see the occasional game where you're playing the bad guy, you're doing a reverse dungeon kind of thing where you have to fight and keep the heroes out and to protect you and your master's loot, I'm interested. And not only am I interested in this particular game, but it all comes together beautifully well. I think this is a really fresh imagining of the reverse dungeon style. And the fact that you can create your own dungeons, your own adventures. You don't have to use just what's given to you in the quest book with the missions there. You can do anything you want with this game, and that gives this game almost sort of an RPG feel, I think. You know, it's not a role-playing game, but it does have so many feelings, so many parts of it will make you think of an RPG. And again, in the reverse sense, you're not taking down the kobolds, you are the kobolds taking down the paladin. Come on, how much fun is that? You can't get more fun than that because it's the reverse of what you expect. It's easy to think of yourself as the wizard or the warrior going in to kick some monster butt and take some treasure. But it's a whole other mindset to be those monsters. And in this case, I think FunDaMental Games did a really good job of bringing those monsters across to us because they themselves are victims as it plays out in the campaign. And that's another thing. I like the way the campaign plays out, even though it's not what the game is about. It is a great aspect to the game, and I honestly believe that if you're going to play this game, the first thing you should do is just run through it as a campaign style. And after that, do what you want. Just like a DM with D&D and just given the books and being told, do what you want, create your own world. And this gives you the opportunity to do that. I love this game. I am dying to see more Die in the Dungeon. I want to see more heroes. I want to see more monsters. I want to see more tiles. I want to see a new game. I haven't even played this out to death yet, and I'm looking forward to a Die in the Dungeon 2. Or even, I would even be happy with a twist if you wanted to take this theme and just put it on another sort of, theme. Take this whole concept and make it a sci-fi. Or that's kind of easy to do. Everyone does that. But my point is you can do any theme with the engine that FunDaMental Games has created here. So their potential for expansions are almost unlimited. But I want to see more Die in the Dungeon, and I want to see more people playing Die in the Dungeon. I want to see more Instagram photos and Facebook photos and Twitter photos of you playing this game because it is that much fun. That is what I feel about the game. So please take this information, go get your own information if you need to, and then make your own decision. But I absolutely love Die in the Dungeon by FunDaMental Games. FunDaMental Games has put together and given us a few good... FunDaMental Games has been hitting it out of the park as far as I'm concerned since they've been... FunDaMental Games has always been... I find FunDaMental Games...